If I were to ask just about any scholar of comparative politics, what do you think the most important characteristics of democracy are? Probably the first answer that I would get from most of them would be this notion of citizen participation. If I think that democracy is about popular control over government or about the ability of the public to restrict government action in some way, either of these definitions would require the people to become involved and to participate in the political system. There are a couple of different ways that this participation might take place, however. One obviously is going to be through elections or something like an election, an elective process, where the people come together either to vote through a referendum for particular policy outcomes or for the politicians that are going to lead the government and make decisions about what should happen. But this notion of election is only one way of thinking about this question of citizen participation. There are at least a couple of others. One, for example, is to consider the works of scholars like Robert Putnam. Putnam makes the argument that fundamental to democracy is the degree or the level or the presence of something called social capital, just simply social interaction between people, even if this interaction is non-political. So I would need to have social organizations that can become politicized if necessary. I would need to have individuals joining in high numbers these social organizations that can be politicized in some way. These organizations that help to train leaders for a future government, or that develop methods or modes of competition, or ways of exchanging ideas and having conversations about political issues. And it's important to realize, though, that not all of these civil society or civil organizations are necessarily good. Booth and Richardson, for example, point out the fact that some of these organizations may in fact be anti-democratic in their nature. Consider something like the Ku Klux Klan, which would certainly be a civil society organization generating lots of social capital, but probably wouldn't be viewed as being democratic in any real sense. In recent years, maybe the last couple of decades, a lot of attention has been paid to this notion of citizen participation through the deliberative process. Deliberation is simply the act of considering or weighing or discussing important issues. Many scholars have looked at deliberative democracy as being perhaps the future of democracy, the ability for the public to get together and talk about what they want and what they don't want, and to come to some sort of consensus about what the ideal outcome should be, with the belief that if the public can't deliberate and really weigh the issues, then the public can never really be in control.